Hello and welcome to another episode of the We Are Change talk show that is rebroadcasted on Liberty Movement Radio. Thank you for tuning in. We have a fantastic broadcast once again for you today, but firstly I would like to give people an update on my current legal situation. As many of you know, I have exposed this New World Order operation extensively, and as a result I've been targeted heavily by the Australian government and Victorian police. I've had law enforcement at my door countless times, detectives with printouts of the We Are Change Melbourne Instagram page. The harassment and targeting has been extreme. They've used every tactic in the book to try and silence me, and now they are going as far as to frame me with impersonation of a government official for matters back in 2019 when I was following up on multiple complaints regarding promotional material at a doctor's surgery, and at no point in time was I wearing a uniform. Did I present any information or identification for them to be under the impression that I was from the Therapeutic Goods Administration? There is no basis to their claims whatsoever. So this is a malicious prosecution. I have court on February the 17th at Broadmeadows. For everybody here in Victoria that would like to show your support, by all means come on down. It's at 9:30 a.m. and everybody that turns up and shows your support, that would be much appreciated. But on to today's show. We have a fantastic guest, Chris, from Forbidden Knowledge News. So let's cross over to that interview now. Joining me today is Chris. Thank you very much for coming on the show. Firstly, can you please tell the viewers a bit about Forbidden Knowledge News?
Sure. And thank you so much again, Jeff, for having me on. I really appreciate it. It's an honor to be here. Yeah, Forbidden Knowledge News is just it's a talk show and podcast that I started a few years ago. It really just started as a Facebook blog and kind of got popular. People enjoyed some of the stuff I was talking about, and I figured, I'd better start talking to people smarter than myself to get some of this information out there. So I started a YouTube channel and ultimately a podcast, and it, very grateful that people were listening and enjoyed the show, and kind of took off, and I'm very blessed to have this be my primary source of work and income right now. So it's a great thing. And the Forbidden Knowledge Network is I started to feature other shows and talk show hosts that I found along the way, and some have come to me. We just kind of to build each other up. I want I love to feature people who are trying to do their best to get, information out there in this community. And I think it's very important for us to kind of help each other out in this space. And because I think these podcasters, these talk shows, these independent media, this is going to be the future of media, really. This is going to be the future of entertainment, I believe, these independent sources that are coming out now, because no one wants that BS scripted nonsense anymore. They want real people talking about real things and bringing real truth to the table. So, and that's what I did. And here I am now. So thank you again for having me.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And it's wonderful to see independent media organizations gain momentum, and you can see the progress they make and the numbers build, and you can reach a larger audience. And it's phenomenal to see, because you're absolutely right. The mainstream media outlets, they can't be trusted. Operation Mockingbird. And yeah, it's a complete betrayal of the public's trust. The amount of lies coming out of CNN, the relentless streams of propaganda, we're seeing it now at an alarming rate. And yeah, people are looking for alternatives. And yeah, organizations such as yourself, it really is a breath of fresh air for a lot of people that are looking for the truth. They're seeking answers. And yeah, it really is exceptional to see people having success in this field. Now, a lot of people are losing faith in, as I said, mainstream media and all these institutions, and especially NASA as well, what's coming out of there, it seems to be one massive tax fraud. The CGI images being brought forward, a lot of people have lost faith that the moon landings took place, and there's just so much deception out there, isn't there?
There certainly is. I mean, first to address, the media, just since 2020, we have seen the amount of things that were once considered conspiracy become true. And I think most of the populace is not trustworthy of what comes out of the media anymore. And you're right, it's 100% propaganda. It's mind control, it's brainwashing. It's trying to, get people to just blindly go forward with the agendas that they're pushing forward. And you mentioned NASA. I used to be, on board with everything NASA was telling us, just not that long, maybe about even 8 years ago or so. And the more I look into not, things having to do with NASA, but other conspiracies, everything kind of leads down to these same trails. They lead down to these same three-letter agencies, these same organizations that tend to do these same dirty deeds over the ages, over the decades. And I think NASA is, like you said, I think it's a front for something else. I think that the money that has been supposedly going into NASA is being used for black projects and things that we're not hearing about. But as far as space goes, I don't know. I don't have the answers. That's a big question, man. And it's a polarizing one too. I just recently started covering, not really covering, but I've talked to a couple of guests about the flat Earth, and I myself am not a flat earther, although I don't completely subscribe to what they're telling me about space either. I don't know. I don't claim to know what is going on outside our atmosphere. All I do know is that NASA has lied about every damn thing that they've shown us. All those images are fake. I don't believe that we have gone to the moon, or at least like they've shown us that we have. I think that all those videos are definitely fake. And it's very suspicious to see, rocket launches and that, especially the newer ones that have been funded by Mr. Musk here, that they don't appear to be leaving our atmosphere. And another interesting aspect is you don't hear many astronomers and astrophysicists coming out and really debating these flat Earth researchers. I don't know why, and both sides have their points, but the astrophysicists or astronomers won't argue the excellent points that the people on the flat Earth side have made that haven't really been debunked yet. So it's very interesting to see what's going on with the level of deception there, especially with our own agency like NASA. But if you've been in this community long enough, of course, about Project Paperclip and how NASA was formed from. So that's red flag number one for you, right?
Absolutely. And you raised some very important points there. All these space projects and operations, they need to be scrutinized because there's enormous amounts of money that are being spent here. And yes, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, some of these rocket launches, it seems to curve off. It doesn't seem to leave Earth orbit. And yes, it's all very bizarre. Sending the Tesla up, that seems to be green screened, the way they've done that. And then we had the American engineer, Don Pettit. He said, we destroyed the technology that allowed us to land on the moon, and now it's a painful process to rebuild that. And I mean, technology goes forwards, not backwards. So a lot of the statements that are being brought forward are very unusual, and there seems to be no logic behind them. And yes, they need to be investigated for this, don't they?
Well, yeah, they're probably among many groups that need to be investigated right now. But as far as when we're looking at these facts that have been put forward by, well, I don't want to say facts, but these theories that have been put forward by some of the people who are on the counter argument of whether we can go to space or not. It's very compelling, and like you said, the moon landing. That's one of the things you can look at the footage, and it looks like they put tinfoil on the lander. I mean, this is something that you can look at very scrutinizing frame by frame and tell that it's a Hollywood set. A lot of these things that they're showing us from the moon are just that they have been shot and manufactured from a Hollywood set. And there's even theories that Stanley Kubrick was involved in some of this stuff. And I it's changed my view on not only that, but the possibilities of life outside of our planet. And I know that I do believe that in the possibilities of aliens and life outside our planet, but I'm not sure if they're even coming visit us. I think that the UFO disclosure movement that's been happening lately is another part of this deception that's ongoing. I'm not sure what's behind this, but it is very interesting. And I completely believe that most of the UFOs that we're seeing in our sky are ours, or our governments, or from these black projects, or the, Space Force, whatever. That's another huge part of this that I think is a big deception.
Yes, absolutely. And a lot of people have questioned that. Are they unidentified flying objects? Are they ours, or are they extraterrestrial? Are they being manned by some sort of foreign alien race? But that's right. And yeah, to look at that lunar lander, it looks like a kid's science experiment. It's been put together with curtain rods. It looks like duct tape. And one of the astronauts said you could drop a screwdriver and it'd go straight down through the floor. I mean, it's obviously not sturdy the way it's been put together. And it's insulting to the public's intelligence when they put that up before people, and they're trying to state that some groundbreaking adventure and moon landing took place. I mean, seeing is believing, and it just does not look like it's capable of such a voyage, does it?
No, it sure doesn't. And it's also insulting the level of fakery that they've been using in some of the footage that they've shown over the years, not only of the moon landing, but of the ISS, the astronauts supposedly in space. I mean, they've been caught over and over just faking this footage, and they'd have an excuse for why they did that, but there can be no excuse. If you're really out in space, why can't you just film it and show us that? It's interesting. I don't know if we can get outside our atmosphere for some reason. That could bring us to many different levels of a conversation. But the bottom line is that there's a reason they're lying to us about not being able to go to outer space. I 100% believe that we have satellites, we have technology floating around out there. I believe that we have our space program, or whatever is flying around looking like UFOs, these TR-3s, these black project ships. I'm definitely sure we have those. Those are ours. But how far they can get out our atmosphere, I'm not sure. Now, whether they can do some kind of interdimensional travel or something like that, that's a possibility to me. Now, these satellites and things, these arrays, these I believe have been put up there since after World War II, after we had some kind of capabilities to get around that area, or send these satellites and non-manned machines out there. I'm pretty sure we got a lot of that technology from the Germans after Project Paperclip. And I'm pretty these did have highly advanced technology that they were working with, and a lot of the stories that we hear about the program have some truth to them.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of evidence to this, But what we're doing with our space tech and these UFOs, I don't think it's what they even portray to the conspiracy public, because there's misinformation on top of misinformation. There are individuals planted in these communities to try and push false narratives. So it's very confusing when you get into this whole space and aliens and did we go there? Can we go there? It's I don't think we're ever going to have the answers from any authority. And I do think we do need to keep looking into this, because individual independent researchers are doing fantastic job looking into this stuff. But they've done such a great job of making people scoff at it, to where if you say, oh yeah, we didn't go to space, a fake landing, they think automatically you're a conspiracy theorist. You're lumped in with this big group of people nowadays that are being shunned in the mainstream media as conspiracy theorists. They're in this one big lump now. But I think that as far as if we're going to if we're going to have a way to get out to space, I don't think it would be with the traditional rocketry that they've been trying to show us either. And I think we have highly advanced technology, 50, 100, maybe more than they're showing us in the public, and that we can do incredible things with this. But space, I just don't think that there is a way for humans at this time to traverse the stars, just because of what it is. And for some reason, they don't want us to know what space really is and what we're really on and what we're really living in. So it's very interesting.
It certainly is. And that's very well said as well. And yes, to be able to leave Earth orbit, there's many challenges. People talk about the Van Allen radiation belts. Right. And if we were to journey beyond the stars, it wouldn't be with the conventional rockets that they're showing us today. It would be with much more sophisticated technology, anti-gravitational propulsion systems, perhaps craft that melt the fabric of space and time, something that, is definitely highly advanced, not with what they're showing us now, because their footage that they've brought up, some people even believe Stanley Kubrick filmed that, and he used the same cameras as 2001: A Space Odyssey. It appears to be filmed out in a desert area, and you can see the American flag. It looks like it's blowing in the breeze, which wouldn't be possible if it was on the moon's surface. And we also see conflicting shadows, which show numerous points of light and different sources coming forward. So you can break it down point by point to see that what's taken place here is a fraudulent deception being perpetrated. And it clearly appears that way, doesn't it?
It certainly does. And, but, again, we have to ask the question, why are they doing this? Why would they hide that either they didn't complete this mission to the moon, to save face, maybe, or there's a lot of other theories, going back to the possibility that maybe we did go, and maybe they had to give us fake footage for some reason. There are theories that they encountered beings when they got there. There are theories that they heard chatter of the astronauts talking through their radios, that they saw beings in these craters and that they were being watched. So that's an interesting aspect, to think that maybe the moon was already occupied by something and they're not letting us go back there, and we're not supposed to know about that. I've interviewed a couple of times John Lear, who's a very interesting guy. Yeah, and he completely believes that there's civilizations on the moon, and he's went out to Area 51 with Lazar, and he's supposedly seen the test crafts and everything like that, and supposedly seen some documents and he's spoken with some high level individuals that indicate that yes, this is true, that that's the reason we can't go back to the moon. Now, that being said, that brings up a whole new level of what could possibly be real and what couldn't in this type of community. Now, I've been doing this for a few years, and I have everyone on my show from any side of any topic because I want to get all sides out there. I love hearing all sides of any topic, and I'm not going to discriminate against anything. Um, so I have people on that will of course get different aspects and different opinions from the audience and myself. I try to remain as biased as possible about everything, but there are some things that are just so ridiculous. But as well as there are people, like I said earlier, that infiltrate this community and these talk shows and these podcasts to spread misinformation and to get the false narratives out there. They go to UFO conferences, they go to consciousness conferences, they go to they go to all these things, and they pose as an insider, as a whistleblower, even former military. I've been to quite a few UFO conferences where they have these former CIA tells all, former FBI tells all. Well, are they really former? Are they ever really leaving these agencies? I don't think so. I think that, at the heart, they're still going to be with the CIA. They're still going to be with whatever 3-letter shady agency that they were with before. I doubt these people are having all of a sudden a change of heart, and they're all of a sudden allowed to, yes, their non-disclosure agreement may have ended, but are they really allowed to spill the beans on all this, highly classified information about aliens and stuff like that? No, I really doubt it. So there's a lot of people that are planted in this community to spread false narratives. And one of them, I believe, is about space. One of them is about aliens. And now, I believe that there are aliens. Now, what you've defined an alien as, that's up to you. For me, my definition is something different. It's more along the spiritual, etheric lines. And that's changed over the years. I used to believe in these flesh and blood beings that were coming here on tin cans across the universe to visit us, and I was super excited about it. But of course, my view has changed over the years. The more I look into it, the more I grow, the more I research, things change. And it could change again tomorrow, and I'm expecting it to. I always expect everything to change. I'm very open-minded. I kind of go with the flow and shift with, if something new comes along and it's the truth, I'm gonna have to look at that. So that being said, going back to these infiltrators and aliens and all these false narratives that they're putting forth right now, because right now is a special time. Right now is a time where people are looking into stuff. People are looking past all the BS that they're being fed from the media, and they want to hear truth because they know they've been lied to. So we have all these agents coming in to spread their narratives and try and muddy the water so people don't find out too much. But they are, people aren't stupid as they think they are. We have our intuition, we have our gut instincts, and we can tell what BS is. So there's people out there that are spreading the narrative of aliens right now, especially that, and I'm not saying they're wrong. They could be absolutely right. They could be telling the truth 100%, but my gut's telling me that they're not. My gut's telling me that a lot of this UFO alien stuff that we're seeing, ancient aliens, all these guys coming out, the guy with the big hair, I have had a lot of these guys on my show, and I respect the work that they're doing. I think they're doing great work. I just think they may not be aware that they're part of a bigger agenda, that they may be being fed information themselves. A lot of these guys are a lot of these big time researchers that you see on the History Channel and all these bigger things. They may not know it, but they're probably being fed BS. They're not going to let them come out here and tell the exact truth of what's happening. That's not the way it works. That's not the way it's ever worked in our society. Nobody's getting out there and telling the truth about anything. You got to find this stuff out for yourself. And I think that's what, part of our existence is all about, but that's a whole different show. So you have to be careful, man. You have to be careful at who you're listening to and what information you're looking at and what direction.
Most certainly. And that's definitely something to be mindful of. Various disinformation and misinformation campaigns, controlled opposition. They'll put out several versions of the truth and then several half-truths, and then flat out lies to try and muddy the waters, to make it more confusing for the public to be informed about such matters. So yes, they've covered every angle and every base to try and certainly suppress information and make it more complicated for the average person to try and find some of this information. And yes, are these retired colonels, are these five-star generals, are they actually retired? No, it appears they've just been given a new project. They're just doing a new operation. And yeah, it certainly appears that way. And some of the information, the non-disclosure agreements they must sign, some of the planes where it looks like they're in zero gravity. So a lot of people are just saying that's just a zero G plane. Mm-hmm. And as they tilt the nose down and then fly back up, it creates a place where there's low gravity. But then looking into it further, it also appears that some of these so-called astronauts are on harnesses. There's some sort of green screen behind them and wires. And when one of them's trying to do some type of display, you can see one of the fellow astronauts reaches out and grabs some sort of invisible wire and brings them back into frame. I mean, even someone with, a basic amount of understanding with visual effects, they would be able to understand that that's all Hollywood fakery. And that appears to be what's taking place, doesn't it?
Yes. And the reason is the CIA has a relationship with Hollywood. It's a symbiotic relationship. The CIA helps Hollywood make movies, and Hollywood helps the CIA make reality. So they wouldn't exist without each other. And I think the whole purpose of Hollywood is just for culture creation and to get these ideas out there, predictive programming. It's especially not about money anymore because they're not making any money. But going back to some of the deception, the first, I was talking about the level of technology that we had earlier, and I'm pretty sure, like I said, it may be 100, maybe more years ahead of what they're telling us. I've had a couple of researchers on telling me that we don't need jet fuel to fly our planes, that we can they're using some kind of compressed air for the most part of. That's how the plane is actually flying. Very interesting things, and that there's some level of hidden technology in everything that we have, like our vehicles, submarines, all these things that we're kind of like, well, how does this work? They have these computer chips that about 95% of the population aren't going to know how to make computer chips. So there's these things that are kind of withheld from the populace as far as our technology goes, that we're never going to question it. We're never going to understand it. And well, most people won't, but people like us are going to be like, well, I want to know how this works. I want to know what's going on with this. Most people don't care. And now we're getting to the age where people are starting to question this stuff. So the BS, what is now science, has become this crazy cult. It's like they are making up stuff on the fly to explain away bullshit that they know is BS, and it's like, no, it's making the normal people wake up. It's so ridiculously insane, some of the explanations that they're coming up with for stuff now.
Absolutely, and they've done that a few times where they push it too far or they slip up and they give information away, and then that leads to the average-minded person to start thinking outside of the square. Because yes, anyone that uses critical thinking skills, they get judged. They use a lot of mockery and sarcasm to try and shame people into taking on that mainstream narrative. People have been persuaded against thinking for themselves. That's how society is structured. And anybody that speaks up about certain topics or takes an alternative viewpoint, they seem to be judged. And a lot of people end up ostracized from their families. And that's why a lot of people toe that line and they stay in fear of speaking out. It's very sad. People should be questioning everything that's brought forward to them. And we even seen George Bush Sr., he was wheeled into the NASA facility, and in the background, you can see someone in front of a blue screen. So, I mean, there's dead giveaways. there's certain glitches and anomalies where if you put it all together, it just blows the whole lid off this scam, doesn't it?
It does. And there's another aspect that people don't really want to look at when it comes to the bigger picture of these agendas and the players involved, is that these guys believe in occult rituals. They are occultists. There is occult aspects to everything they do. It's in the, like I said earlier, the predictive programming. It's in Hollywood, but it's also in their symbolism. It's in their buildings. It's in the whole the construction of the United States. It's, Washington D.C. It's everywhere. These guys portrayed, when the founding fathers came over, they portrayed themselves as Christians, but they were not. That was a cover. These guys are Babylonian death cult occultists. Yes. This goes back to the oldest of not even religions. This is, some people would say it's Satanism, but it's darker. That's part of it. That's probably, involvement in it. It's Crowley kind of twisted everything into Satanism somewhere along the way, and they've adopted his doctrines, but that's another whole story. But people don't want to look at the occult aspects of it, and they throw the symbolism into it. There's occult symbolism in NASA. There's occult symbolism in for every government institution, for every political institution, every Capitol building, everything you look at, there's Freemasonry involved. And they hide behind these other religions, these Abrahamic religions, so people don't find out what kind of deep, dark occultism that they're involved with, which is, they involve everything from ritual sacrifice to mass sacrifice to everyday magic and rituals to try and mind control the public. And you tell the average person that, they're like, no, I don't, you're crazy. But it's coming out, it's becoming more and more evident. Their facade is falling apart, and it's becoming more evident that these individuals at the highest levels are dark occultists. And even if you don't believe it, even if much of the population doesn't believe in that stuff, they do. And they practice it, and they implement it in everything. And the space psyop is very occultic. You look at the rockets, they're all phallically shaped. Why would they have to be phallically shaped? It goes back to the Egyptian mythos, the obelisks, the penetrating the veil. There's all kinds of occultism tied to what's supposed to be these organizations going into space. But I think that it's a deeper aspect, and they are trying to cover up for something darker that they're doing when it comes to the travel of not space, but I think they're maybe traversing dimensions in different ways that we don't know about.
Yes, well said. And I'm glad you brought that up, the secret society aspect to this. I believe a lot of the people selected for these projects are high-level Freemasons, because they've already taken oaths of secrecy. So that would make them an ideal candidate for such operations, because they know how to toe that line. They know the oaths that have been taken. So, yes, that gives them a level of security when selecting people for these missions. And, the 33 degree. And we even seen, some of the names as well. If you put it into gematria, it equals 33 as well. There's many layers to this, many levels. And we recently seen, not long ago, Buzz Aldrin. He was speaking to a child, and she asked him why we haven't been back to the moon. And he said,
that was amazing.
He said, that's because we've never been.
Yeah. he flat out said that.
He couldn't lie to a little girl. He didn't have it in his heart.
Now, some are misinterpreting and saying, "Oh, well, he's getting up there in age. He didn't mean it like that." Well, he would have said it like that if he didn't mean it like that. That was flat out. He said, "Yeah, well, it's because we didn't go," and it's you can't get more evident than that. I think he just was, like you said, he couldn't lie to this little girl looking at him, man. That's hilarious. Yeah. I think these guys carry a level of guilt with them whenever they get to a certain age. They got to start spilling the beans, man.
Yeah.
Who was it? I'm gonna think of his name in a minute. The one that said that we can take ET home. He was I forgot what was. It'll come to me later. But all these high-level individuals on their deathbeds, whether they're with the CIA or some kind of military contracting company, whenever they have all this weighing on them and they get up in age, they have to, some of them want to let it go. And some of them have said some very profound things on their deathbed. Some of them have written very telling books before they've died. So I think at some point, if you're not a complete cold-hearted reptilian lizard person, you might want to come out with some of this information. I think that's what's happening with a lot of these people.
Yes, I believe they get towards the end, and in fear of losing their soul, they try and repent for what they have done, and sometimes speaking out as a way of trying to cleanse themselves from the wrongdoing. But yes, there's many films that have been brought forward as well, and even Hollywood did one, Capricorn 1, that was interesting as well, where it shows the astronauts as they're getting ready to enter the rocket, they get pulled from it, and it's all filmed in a studio setting, and they basically have their lives threatened unless they comply. So it would crush a lot of people's dreams, because they look, as a child, they have dreams of going to the moon or becoming an astronaut, and all of that's dashed when they see the scam unravel like that. So yes, that would be a horrible burden to want to hold on to something like that and keep perpetrating this lie on the public. A lot of people have said some of these astronauts, upon return, not long later, they take on substance abuse issues. They've even turned into alcoholics, some of these astronauts, haven't they?
Oh, yeah. And you can see the look on their faces whenever they're interviewing the astronauts after the Apollo mission. They just look like somebody smashed their puppy. They look so depressed. And it makes you wonder, why do they look so sad? They're going out on these space missions. And there's another kind of aspect to this that I wanted to bring up and cover. And it could be it very well could be a deception. I lean that way sometimes, but then I look at it like maybe this is the truth, and it's so far-fetched and out there that people won't ever look at it as the truth. And that's the aspect of our secret space program. Not only that, but the super soldier program, the MK Ultra ties, all these things that people look at and they're like, no, this is like Star Wars. This can't be true. Now, I don't know how familiar you are with like the super soldier aspect of the secret space program, as far as like the 20 and back program. And these individuals claim that they've had their consciousness cloned, and they put into a clone on a different planet. Like we have bases on Mars, apparently. So, according to these individuals that are involved in these programs, that we have technology and bases on Mars. We have operations there on the moon. Ever since World War II and after, we've had the technology to do this. And we basically have a breakaway type of society that's living out there. And it's part of this whole new world order system that we're not seeing, the controllers, if you will. And they have this tech to go to space, and they're fighting wars out there. And there's, alien mantis beings that are shooting at us and stuff. Insane stories that you hear about. And I've had individuals that claim to be in super soldiers and in the 20 and back program. I've had a few on my shows over the years, and it's very interesting because whether you believe it or not, these individuals, the ones I've had at least, truly appear to believe their story. They truly appear to have emotion attached to it. They seem to be recalling events, which I find fascinating. And I don't know if that is because it really happened to them, or it's because they've been involved in some kind of MK Ultra programming to where these memories were planted in them. But if it is true, that could be another reason for the cover up of everything. because supposedly we've had this incredible technology since World War II, that things like jump rooms where we can instantaneously walk into a room and be on a different planet, these med beds that could heal people, regrow limbs, stop cancers, all these incredible things, help people live for hundreds of years, all this free energy technology, UFOs, space travel, infinite space travel. Not only that, the knowledge of extraterrestrials, alliances with extraterrestrials, this galactic federation, all this stuff that goes along with this secret space program thing. You know, Eileen, most of the time, this is a big psyop. This is a big infiltration from people trying to get us to look crazy, you know? But then again, the people who are in it deep enough, they seem to believe their stories. I'm good friends with quite a few that believe that they've been there, and they believe that they've had these interactions and actually been off planet, and they wholeheartedly believe this. So I have to say, you know, okay, I believe that you believe it. But other than that, I don't know. And I find it very interesting. And that's another interesting aspect of this is, do we have this great breakaway society and a secret space program? And that's why they're hiding from us, and they're showing us rinky-dink tinfoil wrapped lunar landers and faked Stanley Kubrick footage to cover it up? Maybe. I don't know, though. You know, it's interesting.
It certainly is fascinating. But yes, so much suppressed technology, like you're stating, the med beds that could be groundbreaking technology for healing, and to deprive the public of the opportunity to experience those benefits is criminal as well, if that can be made available and can help people right off their deathbeds. And then there's talk of stargates, time warps, and all this information. There was one, I believe it was called the Ziggurat as well. And Saddam Hussein was in control at the time. And they brought in US forces. And yeah, so much information that the public isn't privy to. And a lot of it's all top secret and above top secret. And they've set up many groups, even going back in history. There was like Majestic 12, and a lot of people that have witnessed sightings or anything paranormal. Sometimes they've even had a visit from like the Men in Black as well. And there's been some footage circulating on YouTube and a couple of other places. These men in suits, they appear to be bald and they don't appear to be human. And that would be frightening as well. Some people have had their homes torched for some of the documents that they've had on laptops. If someone has some real damning evidence, they'll go to any length to try and destroy or cover that information up, won't they?
Yeah. Oh, yes, for sure. Now, there's different levels of danger that you get in when talking about some of these conspiratorial things. You know, one of the biggest things right now is, of course, the medical aspects of it. You don't want to talk any medical information to anybody. That could get you first canceled, but then even worse, if you're in a higher level, you could be canceled from life. But a lot of these individuals, you know, these people that came up with free energy, an individual who came up with fueling your car with water, you know, they're not on this earth anymore. Why? Maybe possibly because they were coming up with this, you know, great technology. But also, like you said, you know, to silence people speaking out against some of this stuff, people realizing that, you know, some of this stuff isn't what we're saying. But I think the main way they're doing that right now is to try and make a lot of us look crazy and try and make it looks like conspiracy, and censoring, just silencing it all together, which is the biggest indicator for me that they're trying to hide something. Because why can't you just say, you know, it's crazy, it's not true? You know, we used to have this thing in the United States called free speech. We could say what you wanted and people would decide for themselves. Now it's dangerous. People can't think for themselves anymore for some reason. So it's, you know, dangerous to have any kind of free thinking or free thought or individuality here anymore. So that can get you in trouble too, and it's all fear-based. People are afraid. They're afraid of being canceled. They're afraid of not having a job. They're afraid of not being able to travel, all because of the institution is telling them to. You're telling them they have to be afraid of this, and that's the control factor, man. That's the if you don't participate in it, if maybe you turn off the news and don't participate in the BS, I think you'd be a lot better place.
Yes, very true. And I believe a lot of what the government brings forward, it should be up to scrutiny, and we should be able to speculate what's taking place and think for ourselves. And I wouldn't be surprised if instead of the final frontier, they're looking at space. I believe they could even be using the money to actually drill down and expand some of these underground military bases. And and that's where it looks like the money's being distributed. Like you said, a lot of black budget projects. And
well, I know here, especially in we're in the area I live in, Colorado, under the Rocky Mountains. It's all military bases, man, and they're all connected. They're all connected throughout the United States. I'm sure the ones here in Denver, under the airport, there's a massive military base that's supposed to be top secret. Nobody's supposed to know about it, but it's well known. There's a massive military base under the Denver airport that connects to Dulce. It connects to all the other ones in New Mexico. It connects across the United States, and I'm sure they're ever expanding that. And all the money, the trillions of dollars that have been gone missing from our budget. Not only that, but the trillions of dollars supposedly going to NASA. All of this is going into, like you said, these black projects, underground tunnels, and God knows what else, what other terrifying type of black projects they're working with, war projects, who knows, communicating with demons.
Yeah, absolutely. And that Denver airport, that's mind-blowing. Some of the murals that they had up there, very dark, very macabre, and the plaque that they have, the New World Airport, it's all very Freemasonic. And some people have reported like gargoyles there as well. And they have like a symbol for the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, this horse out the front. And
Lucifer, did you know that it killed its owner? Whenever the owner was making it, he died. It fell on him.
Yeah, very creepy and very spooky. And that's the last thing and images you would want to see as you're about to board a flight. It doesn't really put someone at ease or make them feel calm and relaxed. It's absolutely terrifying. And you would know Denver already had an operating airport that was fully functional, and there was no reason to go and build this elaborate facility here. And there's a lot of question marks surrounding this airport, isn't there?
Yes, the amount of dirt that was displaced to build it was enough for a couple of cities. It was insane, and there's levels of the airport that are inaccessible. I've gone there a couple of times recently to try and get back to the murals. They blocked off even more of it now, so unless you have a ticket to a certain to get on to a certain airliner or something like that, you're not going to see everything that there is to see there. But I've had a couple of my friends go in and investigate a few years ago, and a few of them got to talk to some of the staff and said, yeah, for sure that there are tunnels down there that are completely restricted. I've heard, seen military personnel. I'm sure that there's huge, massive trucks that drive into mountainsides down there, and the tunnels go to underneath the airport. I don't know if you've ever seen the Rockies out here, but man, it's insane. Driving through the Rocky Mountains, there's all kinds of crazy activity you could see. I've seen helicopters landing look like going between mountains, disappearing, planes, experimental craft. It's all military base out under there, and it's pretty insane. And if you're talking Freemasonic, the Freemasonic aspects around Denver and some of the surrounding cities, the symbolism, it is everywhere. It's the heart of the beast there.
Yeah, it really is fascinating. One of my favorite subjects is the deep underground military bases. And like you said, they're all connected. they've got these shuttle tunnel boring systems, these maglev trains that connect all these bases. Some people say it travels faster than the speed of sound as well, and many different levels. And you mentioned Dulcie, some of the information, you reach a dead end because there's not many more articles or interviews or speeches to watch. It sort of, you get to an end of the rabbit hole on that one. They do have like an old sketch of Dulcie, and it shows like the first level is communications, the second level is like security, and then it goes into like a level where there's greys and then reptilian beings, and then there's like a cloning station, and it just keeps going. And there's many different levels there. And yes, it's all very much secret. And some of the information, it sounds very credible, doesn't it? Phil Snyder and...
Well, I'm glad you mentioned Phil Snyder. I recently, one of my friends is a documentary filmmaker. I don't know if you've heard of Darcy Weir. He uncovered some information. He did a documentary about Phil Snyder and the underground military bases. Phil Snyder was a very interesting character. A lot of what he said was in fact true, but unfortunately, we uncovered that his the injury that he sustained to his hand happened before he even was a contractor. It happened in childhood. So it did not happen, unfortunately, with an alien gunfight from Greys shooting a laser at him. So he lied about that.
Yeah, true.
That's one thing that he's been caught in a lie with. But many of the things have been verified about some of the aspects of the bases and things like that and where he worked. And so it's very interesting, but that's very disappointing when individuals like that who have for the longest time have so much respect in like the UFO community and things like, and you find out they're lying about something. Well, you can't trust them about anything else, you know, and they're trying to get like Bob Lazar is an interesting cat because he doesn't seem to be lying about, he can't be caught in lying about anything, but some of the documentation he's provided is kind of shady and doesn't match. And some people are tending to think that he is lying about a few things, but, you know, truthful about some, just like a lot of people who come out in this. And again, it goes back to why would they let you come out and say all this stuff? Why aren't you swimming with the fishes like some of these other guys that are threat to this? You know, he's gone on Joe Rogan. He's gone on the biggest show ever and talked about this stuff. Well, I think that's probably because the information he's talking about is okay. This is the narrative they want people to believe, when I think it's much, much more interesting probably than aliens. I think that it's something that we don't understand. And I'll give you an example of something we don't understand. I was at a UFO conference a couple of years ago, and I'll tell you the researcher's name, Trey Hudson. He's a paranormal investigator, former intelligence, working at a place called the Meadow in the southern United States. It is one of the places like Skinwalker Ranch that has levels of high strangeness, just high strangeness, weird stuff, UFOs, paranormal everywhere. Well, he brought a video to this UFO conference of him and his investigative team one night of filming. And one night they have an infrared camera set up in a field, and in this field, a massive 20 foot by 20 foot just cube manifests into the field, a black cube. And they don't know what it is. They send his team out there. I'm watching his team walk out there, infrared images. When they get to the cube, his team disappears. These guys, this is real. I mean, I know this guy's not faking anything. I talked to him, you know, I hung out with him. This guy's legit. And his team disappears into this cube, and they say that from their perspective, when they're in there, the temperature drops like 10 degrees. They can't see anything. It becomes 10 times darker, and they're running into like picker bushes and things around them that weren't there before. They have to backtrack and find their way out of whatever kind of dimension or existence or portal they walked into. And all of a sudden, they're gone. I could just see this black cube on the screen, and they pop out of the other side of the black cube thing. And I can't explain what happened. They can't explain what happened. He can't explain what happened, but it's the most incredible footage I've ever seen. So I completely believe there are things about our reality that we could not begin to understand or explain, and that our reality is not as physical and malleable as we would like to think. And I think that there is a hidden reality or multiple realities existing right here with us at all times that we don't have, our vision can't see, or we don't have the perception to pick up on. So there's definitely some strange, high strangeness going on in our reality here.
Most certainly, and that's a eye-opening subject to the Skinwalkers Ranch, Bob Bigelow, the high strangeness, and the alarming number of cattle mutilations as well. And it seems to be done with surgical precision, some of the extractions that are made. And a lot of farmers have seen lights out in the fields as well. And the next morning they've woken up and there's crop circles and all sorts of phenomenal encounters people have come across. And a lot of people are questioning some of these agencies like MUFON and other places that you call up and report. They could be tied in with government and deliberately suppressing the information like they've set up a front. And it's also disheartening, like you said, people like Phil Schneider, when one of their versions of events doesn't add up or they're proven to be fraudulent, then you have to look at everything they're saying under a magnifying glass and really take it and be a bit skeptical, which is something that we seldomly see as well in the community. People want to believe that, that they really want to know that, that there are other terrestrials out there. We have been visited. They really want to believe some of the people stepping forward and blowing the whistle on this. It would be very crushing to hear that some of these people were just disinfo agents and, their story that they're telling isn't accurate or genuine. But yeah, there was information about Phil Snyder's father, Oscar, as well. They believe he was a German U-boat captain. And some of the people that work at these facilities, a lot of the time it's their father or their grandfather that got them their foot in the door as well. This is a common theme too, isn't it?
It is. Intelligence is a funny thing, especially with the layers of people involved and their children and their families. And I think it's a multi-generational thing when it comes to a lot of this intelligence stuff. And interestingly enough, it's even in Hollywood and the music industry. Yeah. A lot of the rock stars you see, especially from like the eras of the 70s and 80s and 60s, they are military brats. They come out from military or intelligence families. And, some of them I highly believe were planted there to create culture, get a certain message across. And I think that's still going on, of course, right now in our modern pop music. But it's probably more of a mind control, MK Ultra type, maybe, generational torture thing that's going on there. But that's some dark stuff, Yeah,
it certainly is. Some people also say nepotism is involved, where they look after their friends and family and give them the opportunities first before they go looking at other talent. That's a lot like that, like you mentioned in the music industry, acting as well. A lot of the agents and talent scouts, they always give preference to friends and family first. But so a lot of that we've seen. And to have a secret security clearance, there's so much involved. They tap phones, they interview family members, and they even track people's movements. And like Bob Lazar, his personal life was starting to break down, and that even interfered with his employment, didn't it?
Yes. It's interesting that when Bob Lazar kind of became really popular again a few years ago, all the stuff that was happening in his personal life, I think these guys, they have a hook in them. Everyone that's really big in this community has some kind of, they're either, like I said earlier, being fed some kind of information, or they've got something on them, or they're involved in some way with the spread of this information. I don't know. That's why I don't, I will have them all on my show. I'll have anyone, but I don't trust a lot of the information. I think we should hear it. I think we should explore it and decipher it from ourselves, because these guys are spitting truth. They're spitting a lot of truth, but they're spitting lies with it. That's where the whole counterintelligence comes in. And, speaking of counterintelligence, I had Rick Doty. I sat down with him at the UFO conference last year. He is a former counterintelligence officer that was responsible solely for spreading information about UFOs. Now, it's interesting that the government would have a special officer dedicated just to do that, and that's what he did. And he caused a lot of misfortune. He actually, may have contributed to somebody's suicide, dark things. And now all of a sudden, he's got a show coming out on I don't know if it's a History Channel or something. I sat down. I hate to talk bad about people, but I sat down with him at the UFO conference, and he was the sweetest guy. A couple of months later, asked him to come on the show. He's like, "Well, yeah, but I got to charge you for the interview now. I'm big time. I'm going on." It's like, all right, man, that's interesting. And you're still counterintelligence, are you?
Yeah.
So, you got to be careful of who you're getting this information from again.
Absolutely. And that's something very important to leave the viewers with. Always be very mindful of certain individuals, and always do research as well. And don't just take people's word at face value, which a lot of people can fall into those traps. This has been an amazing broadcast. So much information that the viewers can go back and look up. And yes, a very important broadcast, getting through certain facts that people don't usually see on other outlets and mainstream media. So it's a privilege to have you on the show. If people want to look up Forbidden Knowledge News, how would they go about doing that?
Yeah, thanks again, Jeff. That was fantastic. If you want to find Forbidden Knowledge News, we're on all podcast platforms. Our website is forbiddenknowledge.news. We have you can get our premium content on Rockfin. That's ROKFIN.com/FKN plus. And we're also on Odyssey and Limited on YouTube. And that's about it.
Excellent. Great to see you utilizing these platforms. Continued success for the future, and speak again soon. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Jeff.